welcome back. I'm glad some of you have stayed over and come over because I kind of left everyone hanging, didn't I?
You did.
I did. Well, this is the Music Bar podcast. You admonished me because last episode I didn't introduce the show, did I?
No, you just started talking about Charlie Watts.
I did. Well,
He did. It's all right.
It's okay.
He deserves it.
If you're hooking on, you know it's the Music Bar podcast.
Exactly right.
It's not like you're changing the television channel and you're going, oh, what's these guys?
That's right.
Who are these guys?
It's not a mistake.
It's not a mistake.
You found us.
I don't know.
You might think it is a mistake.
Great mistake. Now, look, this podcast is wide ranging. We start with a subject, and sometimes we can go off a little bit, and that's the nature of it. Because
that's conversation.
It's conversation, and plus it's also we're looking at a subject. We look at music, and then all of a sudden it just opens up other little doorways for us, and we talk about stuff. And if you were listening last time, we started talking about rock and roll and the rebellious nature of it and danger. And Chris talked about growing up in a very Christian household. Would I say very Christian?
Yeah.
He listened to a lot of Christian music, and he actually had somebody come into his school and talk to him about the dangers of backmasking.
Yeah.
And I mentioned that the Satanic Panic was very real.
Mm.
And this is at the end of the podcast when Chris brought this little nugget of information up. But that's great. That's the nature of it all. So this is kind of part 2, even though it's episode 5 of the Music Bar podcast. Thank you, everyone.
For joining.
Oh, thank you for joining. Thanks for all the comments and letters. I've got a stamped envelope. Not really.
I don't think anyone even knows where to buy them anymore. Can you imagine that?
If someone wants to flood a letter our way, please. I don't have a postal letter. That was always one of the things you used to have to get a PO box or something like that.
Yeah, who knows?
Anything you started, so you get mail. But, send a comment, anything,
Instagram,
DM
Facebook.
us,
Yep.
That sort of thing for a good time, call, whatever.
The Music Bar.
The Music Bar for a good time. Now, look, before we get started on this, we're going to bring up some heavy topics here. So I just want to sort of be upfront. If there's anything triggering here in this episode, because we're going to talk about suicide.
Mm-hmm.
And if the conversation we're going to talk about upsets anybody, I'd say stop now.
Yep.
Don't listen. Not, we just want to do that out of respect. I don't want you to be listening and thinking, oh, crap. And look, if anyone is out there, there's things to talk to like Lifeline and stuff like that and Beyond Blue. This is here in Australia. I don't know if you're listening from overseas, but we are going to be talking a bit about suicide here because we're going to be talking about the Satanic Panic.
Yep.
That was very, very real in the 1980s.
Yeah.
And possibly it's still there in some capacity, I suppose. But the forefront of this came about in the 1980s.
Yeah.
Very much when 2 young fellas in America, one shot and killed himself and the other one
shot and
survived.
Yeah.
All right.
He died 3 years later.
From
his injuries.
And he claimed because he survived, that they were listening to the Judas Priest album Stained Glass.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the song...
It was a...
Spooky Tooth song. You just told me, just before we pressed record on the mic,
I don't remember the song.
No, You, Me, or something like that?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. Oh, now you got me.
I can't remember.
Oh, you just told me. And the lyrics, and that there was... They were compelled to do it, and I don't know whether they came up with it or something, that there was backwards recording on the record that made them do it. And the backwards recording, what they said was something like, do it.
Do it. Just do it.
Just do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was more the way that Rob Halford from Judas Priest sang it.
True.
They were saying that Rob Halford was a lead singer and still is the lead singer of Judas Priest. He was taken to court years later.
The whole band, I remember the whole band had to be sworn in, seeing them all in their semi-heavy metal court outfits.
Yeah.
They had the rock star suits on and everything like that.
Yeah. It wasn't a Judas Priest song, like I said before. But
no, it was the Spooky Tooth song.
They were trying to say that he was singing the song in a way that made him, made it sound like he was saying "do it." Mm-hmm. I believe something along those lines.
Yeah.
So they made Rob Halford sing the song in court, out loud so people could hear what he was doing, and he had to go and justify the fact that he wasn't doing what they were trying to do, trying to accuse him of. But there were other bands back then, and there's a lot of, like I remember being in a Christian school in the mid-'80s, and people would turn up and have big lectures with us about backward masking.
Now, explain backward masking, because we haven't kind of explained what that is.
So you listen to a song, but when they've recorded it, they've recorded words and put it in the recording, so when you hear it forwards, it's
backwards. So it's played backwards. It's backwards.
Yeah, it's backwards, but it's played
forward. But it gets into your
subliminal mind.
And so they were suggesting that these artists
were doing this on purpose.
We're doing it on purpose.
Yeah.
That's the crux of the court case.
That's right, yeah.
And Priest's defence was, why would we want to kill our audience?
Yeah.
Why would we?
And every band who went through the same thing. There was a lot of bands out there with, yes, they had satanic, like the pentagram. They might have different things on the front cover, upside down crosses. Yes. So any of those bands were basically, we were told they were satanic.
Well,
I was told at school.
You were told this, yeah.
You were told this at school.
Okay.
You were told at school that these bands were satanic. Don't listen to them. They're not good for you. And they're there to basically hurt their audience, make us, like you said, turn us into Satanists, I guess.
Zombies.
However you want to put it. And yes, AC/DC has a song called Hell's Bells. Yes, Iron Maiden has a song called 666, Number of the Beast.
Mm-hmm. And I remember, my mum, not trying to, I think she semi-believed this kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because it was different from when she was a kid. I mean, the most evil thing was the Rolling Stones.
Yeah.
And they even did a song called Sympathy for the Devil.
Right.
Pardon me.
Yep.
So there was that. And Led Zeppelin were very much playing with the occult.
Yep.
Yeah, Jimmy Page was those symbols that they did on, Jimmy Page bought Aleister Crowley's mansion. Aleister Crowley was the guy who sort of founded. He's considered the father of the occult.
Of the occult, yeah.
Of the occult, and Jimmy Page bought his mansion, and he was dabbling in drugs and underage girls, and
even Van Halen had a song on their first album called "Running with the Devil."
Running with the Devil. That's right.
So there were bands touching on that.
Well, blues is all about the crossroads. Robert Johnson made the deal with the devil.
Yeah, he sold his soul.
He sold his soul. So what was the reaction at your school? Well, I mean,
to me back then. I looking back now, I should say, I was a rebellious kid, so nothing they could say was going to change my mind. Mm-hmm. I like metal, but I was also smart enough to go, well, I'm not going to turn into a Satanist tomorrow, but I can listen to a song and like it for what it was, and not listen to lyrics if I don't want to. And that's what I basically did. I knew I was smart enough to separate the issues, because, like I mentioned just off air before, we also had people coming in and talking to us about Dungeons and Dragons.
That was considered a gateway.
Yeah.
And how many heavy metal friends have you got that play Dungeons and Dragons?
Do you play?
No, I can't stand the thing. But I remember, I
know a lot of people who do play it. Yeah.
Yeah, I do. I've only ever played it twice, and it was through heavy metal mates who are into metal.
Right.
We went and played Dungeons and Dragons, and I sat there going, "What the hell is this?"
Yeah, most people I know who play it are not into metal like we are.
It's a real nerdy sort of thing now.
Yeah,
but there's a nerdy element to heavy metal, I do feel. It's an outsider thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. So, but yeah, we used to get lectured on that all the time. I think back then it was the first time people would hear that kind of talk. So people started believing it. And I guess looking back at it now from what we're going through now with COVID and everything else, it's kind of like fear.
Fear, I suppose that's the way to put it, yeah.
Yeah, it's fear. People are like, we don't understand it, we don't like it because it's talking about things we don't like, So it must be scary, it must be wrong, so let's just go around and preach to people and tell them what they're doing is wrong. And they think they're doing the right thing, which is fine. I had no problem sitting there listening to it. But it actually made me like it more.
Yeah. I think that was the thing. It was always the rebellious attitude towards it because I think the backmasking thing, it's been happening in recorded music for a long time.
It has been, yeah.
Yeah, the Beatles did it.
Yep.
But it was just nonsense, gibberish sort of stuff. Beatles just did it just to do it because they were fiddling around in the studio. They were all taking drugs and all that sort of stuff. And so they were just fiddling around and said, that sounds cool.
Yeah.
And George Martin, their wonderful producer, was smart enough to go, well, yeah, okay, but what are you going to do it with it? You know, if you put it in something and make it a musical thing, that works.
Yeah.
Some of them were doing it because they knew it was rebellious, because rock and roll was still a young person's thing.
Yep.
Back in the 60s and the 70s. It was nothing, parents just weren't into it.
No.
Not like that, like I said before in the last episode, it's older, we've grown up with it now, and it's all part of our thing, to the point where almost nothing shocks us.
No, that's true.
Like Lil Nas X came out with that video. You didn't see it? It's all very satanic. He goes down the pole dances down the video to Satan and gives Satan a lap dance and all that sort of stuff.
Who's this?
Lil Nas X, Old Town Road, that song that came out with Billy Ray Cyrus. Yeah, he's a young rapper. He's certainly provocative.
Yeah.
And it's certainly, he put his blood now in Nike sneakers. And see, he's kind of pushing it. And the Christian right have gotten up there and said, how do you do it? So there's obviously someone out there still trying to be a little provocative. And America is a very conservative.
It was, especially back in the 80s.
Back in the 80s. And it still is pretty conservative, you know.
Yeah.
If you're a Christian and you like country music, you're going to go far in America. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But Tasmania, where you grew up, was a very conservative state too. I mean, when we were growing up, Queensland was the most conservative state.
Yeah.
But Tasmania wasn't far behind.
No, definitely not.
Definitely not. So did Australians indulge in record burnings or anything like that? Did you see anything like? Because remember that was happening in America.
Yeah, I wasn't never part of it. I didn't see it, but I do know people who did.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. I know some people very close to me who did that.
I never saw anything.
Got rid of their albums.
Because I didn't grow up. I grew up a Catholic, and I went to a Catholic school.
Yep.
So the Catholics do very much. This is probably about as religious as we're going to get. Chris and I are not here to have a theological discussion.
No,
not in any way whatsoever. I'm not here to condemn, and I'm not here to preach or anything like that. But I went to a Catholic school, and the Catholics very much believe in the devil. Mm-hmm. As all Christians do, because that's how it works.
Yep.
But the Catholics believe in it so much that they actually have a ceremony for exorcism written down, approved by the Vatican.
Yep.
They actually have priests and monks who actually go around the world actively fighting Satan. To the Catholics, it's a very, it's not just they stand up on a pulpit and say it. They are actively fighting Satan.
Yeah.
Whether you believe in Satan or not, they're actively doing it. So I grew up in a Catholic. So it was kind of there. KISS stands for Knights in Satan's Service.
I heard it was Kings in Satan's Service.
Kings in Satan's Service. Knights in Satan's Service. AC/DC stood for Antichrist Devil's Child.
Devil's Child, yeah.
When the Iron Maiden song, Number of the Beast, came out, my mum really didn't like hearing 666, the number of the beast, being played in her house.
No.
But I was trying to explain to her the song's not about how good Satan is. It's about a young person being drawn into a satanic cult, so to speak.
Yeah.
But that's Steve Harris just being clever.
Yeah. And you've also got Metallica sing a song called Creeping Death.
Yes.
And if you look into what that's about, it's the markings on the doors where the angels will go past and take people who didn't believe and kill them.
Yeah.
So they've got the thing out of the Bible, the written passage out of the Bible, and just changed the lyrics and the wording and made it into a thrash metal song.
But he grew up in a very Christian household too.
He did. James Hetfield did.
Yes,
very
he
much
did.
So.
Very much so.
Yeah.
He
Christian Science.
That's a very extreme, because Christian scientists, as I said, I'm not a theological discussion here, but they believe in the power of prayer to cure everything, which kind of is a bit weird, Christian and science in the same, but that's what they believe in.
Yeah.
And his mum was dying of cancer, wasn't she? And this was making him a very, very angry young man, because he couldn't see the benefit of what his mum never wavered in her belief, did she?
No, don't believe so. No.
No. So, okay, because what happened then in America is this kind of, the Satanic Panic was real. Rock and roll as a satanic thing. You know, looking at the album covers and all these. I mean, like Dio had people were telling me that Dio was satanic.
People told me that the word Dio was written upside down and it said the devil. If you get the and rotate it, you can see the word devil in it.
Because he is the one who invented the devil horns. He's credited with visual, the devil horns, okay? Gene Simmons wants to tell you it's this one. He sticks the thumb out, and he's trademarked that.
Did he?
Gene Simmons.
That's crazy.
Know. But Dio, and Gene Simmons, he said he started doing that, but Dio did the devil's horns. But it's an old Sicilian thing.
Okay.
It's an old, and because he's Sicilian, as you said, Dio, well, it means devil. But it's a Sicilian name.
I didn't say it meant devil.
Not upside down or back to front or whatever it is.
The way it was written looked like the word devil.
Oh, it does, Diablo or something like that.
No idea.
Which is Spanish
I'm
for
not a
devil.
Dio fan.
Hey? What? What?
That's another story.
This podcast is over. You're not a Dio fan. What? Oh my God, Chris. Disappoint me, man.
No.
You hurt me. You tear me up inside.
I had people complaining, not complaining. I had people
Complaining? No,
say to
it's a
me,
complaint. You're wrong, too.
I had people say to me about chili peppers. And I said to them, I'll ask why you don't like them. Because you never actually,
Oh, me?
Because I've heard our conversation about chili peppers, and you're like, I don't like them, blah, blah, blah. But they were like, I said, I don't actually know why he doesn't like them. I know you don't think he's a good singer.
Oh.
But what is it about them that you didn't like?
Oh, okay.
I'm going to ask you that one day.
Right. This wasn't one of the episode. I think I could go a whole episode of why I don't like them. But in a nutshell, they've literally just produced the same song and the same album since 1991. And everyone thinks they're awesome. And I think, what is so awesome about this band? Right. Every song is the same. You know, funky beat. And Anthony Kennett's going, rhyming everything with Metallica. I'm going to lick it because it's all got a thing. And I'm back in California. And I just hate it. And I don't hate much in this world. But and every time and I said the Nick Cave quote, and every time I do hear a Chili Peppers song, I just want to and then when they do rock out, it's just pop, like Zephyr's song. Fly away on. And people can say, if you hate them so much, how come you know their music? I hate Billy Joel, and yet I know all his songs too, because they get in your ear.
You hate Billy Joel? This podcast is over.
Oh, we're going to have a fight, I can just see. I think I'd lose in a fight with you.
Anyway, I've now asked that question, and now you've got the answers. People who are talking about it.
Yeah, the Chili, I just don't think they're anything extraordinary. Fine players, all of them. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But as far as songs, no, it's just there. And yet people love them and they jump around. And then when I watched that Woodstock 99 and...
I do have to say, though, as you said before, musicians, they're great. The guitar player, John, phenomenal.
He's phenomenal.
And they do have some pretty amazing songs when it comes to, like, hearing their music. Like, Under the Bridge is a very well-known song. Most people listen to it. Most people like it.
Well, that's what got
It's actually
people
quite hard to play. It's actually a very tricky song to play on a guitar.
All this stuff's very tricky.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is very tricky.
So musicianship-wise, it's really, really good in that sense. It's a good song. I can hear it. But I understand what you're saying, but people wanted to know why. And I don't think I ever asked you why you didn't like him, so it was nice to get that out now for those at home. This is why Daniel doesn't like the Chili Peppers.
I think they started out so well, and then they just found this formula and just went, we're going to just do it now. We're going to milk it for the next 30 years.
Speaking of formulas at work, Iron Maiden have a new album out.
Yeah, they do.
And that's their 17th, I believe,
Yay.
album.
Yep.
they have 40 something altogether, but 17 of them.
Yeah,
are
they got
albums.
more. No band has brought out more live albums than Iron Maiden. Or possibly some jazz artists like I think Keith Jarrett has brought out a ton of records. And I read
Slim
the other
Dusty will be up there.
Buckethead's released 300 albums.
Is he really?
Yeah, apparently
Wow.
he was at one stage he was releasing an album a day.
Far out.
I know.
Man. But yeah, Iron Maiden have their new album, which I like.
Mm-hmm.
But when it was only just released the other day, and I expected an Iron Maiden album,
And you got it.
and I got an Iron
It did
Maiden
what it said
album.
on the box.
Yep. And I don't expect it to ever be great, and I didn't expect it to be brilliant,
That's
but it
interesting.
is good.
It is good, yeah.
And that's what they've done from the very beginning of time. They've just released their formula in music. It has always worked,
And it
that's
works.
what they've done.
And then their album covers are just like,
Draw you in.
oh, they draw you in.
Samurai, isn't it?
It's a Samurai, this one.
Yeah, yeah.
See, we're going back on this Satanic Panic.
Yep.
Because I'm going to bring us back on track.
Yeah, that's right.
You digressed this time.
I did actually.
It was the DIO thing. I'm still a little floored by that, and I'm still picking myself up off the floor of that one. We have to have a discussion about that. It wasn't so much the Number of the Beast album cover; it was the Killers album cover that got me.
Yep.
With Eddie with the axe, with the blood, and the
Yep.
hands holding Eddie's shirt, like begging.
Yeah,
Oh.
for mercy.
That was, to me as a kid, you picked that album, Number of the Beast, but this has got the cover.
Yeah.
This album's got the cover. What is this? Is the whole thing, is this a musical version of what's going on this cover?
True.
But that started, didn't start, it was sort of like the precursor to what they call the Parents Music Resource Centre, which started by Tipper Gore, which is Al Gore's wife. The guy who went around in his private jet and told everybody that fossil fuels are killing the planet and we're all going. His wife, his insidiously evil wife, tried to censor music.
Yeah.
Because she heard the song Darling Nikki. She bought Purple Rain, Prince album, heard Darling Nikki, and one of the first saw her met her in a hotel lobby masturbating with a magazine.
Oh, wow.
And she said, my 12-year-old daughter has just listened to this song. There is nothing on this album to tell me.
Yep.
And she wanted to censor music and everything like that. And because they called it the Washington Wives, she got all her politicians' wives together and they went for the music industry.
Mm-hmm.
And this was the first time, the music industry's always had problems, payola and all that stuff. But this was a time that they felt real political pressure to change the industry.
What year was this?
In 1988 or
So
something like that.
the outcome of this was that the sticker on
The Parent Advisory sticker.
Yeah.
Yeah. The parental advisory sticker that you saw on pretty much nearly every heavy metal record.
Yep.
And now on pretty much every hip hop album.
Yep.
Does it still happen? Well, because we don't buy physical media, it just has a little E on it now with explicit, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And by this stage, because...
But that's only if it's swearing in it, not about the message.
Yeah, the message, because it was because then you had Venom.
Oh, yeah.
Came out in the early 80s with their album Black Metal.
Mm-hmm.
And pretty much every song on that was about Satanism and being into Satan. And then you had Slayer, who were bringing out their whole Satanic sort of line of things.
Yep.
And the thing is, Venom, it was basically, they were just trying to find a way to cross over and sell records. And it was, and record companies were getting it. Venom basically were a bunch of guys from Newcastle upon Tyne in England who were pretty much drunks.
The whole time. Yeah.
They were drunk Newcastle Brown Ale. There's this great thing you can hear on the internet of the lead singer of Venom talk. This is between song banter.
Mm-hmm.
Some people have just edited these things up and put them out there. And they've heard the one, and all he just says, the Newcastle Brown Ale. And he's just pissed.
Yeah.
He's absolutely pissed. But these were the guys that were supposed to be, the purveyors of... It wasn't until the Norwegians got involved that it became...
Black metal.
Norwegian black metal. They were serious about that.
Yeah, they were very serious about being a satanic followers.
Mm.
Don't listen to that at all.
Hey?
I don't listen to that music at all.
There's a pretty interesting film called Lords of Chaos. It's a fictional. It's a movie. Mm-hmm. There's a documentary called Until the Dark Takes Us, which was about black metal. Because I'm interested in it. Mm-hmm. I don't necessarily like it. but I'm like the music nerd I am.
Yeah.
I will listen to anything music, and I didn't like the documentary because obviously they didn't have the rights to the music, and to me it gave no context into all right. So what were they listening to? What is a mayhem song? What does a what is a what does a death song sound like? What does a mayhem song sound like? You know, and I got the names wrong. So if anyone's into Norwegian black metal, just don't. Okay, I don't know all the names. Okay, but I know Euronymous is the name. Anyway, Euronymous is the guy who was in Mayhem. Anyway, it's a convoluted story. Fantastic history though. The history behind how the whole Norwegian metal, black metal thing, and I think it even made Venom. The guys in Venom kind of go, whoa. Whoa, these guys are serious, you know? And
we just pretend.
And then even Slayer sort of came out and like, what's his name? Tom Araya from Slayer said, I'm a Catholic.
Yeah.
And he's brought his kids up like, his kids
did.
all go to Catholic school, he's got them all baptized and everything. It was like, and he was one who's saying God hates us all.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy.
So they're just looking for this way, but...
It's marketing.
Marketing, that's exactly what
it was. Marketing for trying to find the people who needed something to rebel in, and that's what it was.
But once it starts getting into actual... Well, another thing was AC/DC got in trouble because Richard Ramirez, the serial killer, the Night Stalker, he said that he used to listen to AC/DC a bit before, and especially when AC/DC came out with the song Night Prowler, which is a great song. It's one of my favourite AC/DC songs. But it... these are the things that they were connecting it, They're trying to find video games cause violence and stuff like that. And there's always something that connects, this violent act only happened because
this song
or that you watched that. It's not, well, what's the other things going on in your life? Like there's a great line in the Suicidal Tendencies song, institutionalized, when he's like, what do you mean I've got problems? When I went to your schools, I went to your churches, I went to your educational institutions, I've got a problem.
You are a product of your environment, aren't you?
You are a bit. And so you're listening to get that sort of thing. And Marilyn Manson came along and scared the pants off everybody too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And Alice Cooper.
Alice Cooper, terror. I mean, that Welcome to My Nightmare. This is a good that Welcome to My Nightmare show from the album came out in 1975. Mm-hmm. The tour didn't hit Australia until 1978.
Oh wow!
Because it was banned. The Australian government, especially the Queensland government, banned it from coming to Australia.
Right.
Because they said it was like, and very conservative governments at the late 70s by that stage, especially in Queensland. Queensland was basically a police state.
Who was
Joe Bjelke-Petersen?
Yeah,
it was a police state. Literally, it was it's hard to, and people who didn't grow up in Queensland in the 70s and the 80s, it's hard to know, but it was a dictatorship, pretty much, that the police were running. It was a police dictatorship. Anyway, they wouldn't allow Alice, and finally they allowed it to come to Australia. By then he'd released other albums, and
4 years later.
Something like that, yeah. He brought it, but he still brought that show out.
Yep.
And if you've watched it, it's just a naff.
Yeah, I've seen Alice Cooper, and it's just fun.
It's a fun show. It's a Halloween show.
It's a Halloween show. That's the best way of putting it.
Yeah, and I think we in Australia, but that's the thing, isn't America a funny place? They embrace Halloween.
Oh, absolutely.
But they're fundamentally Christian in a way too, and that heavy metal and that kind of sits more with Halloween.
Yeah.
But they started, when it was back to the PMRC, Tipper Gore, they actually got the Congress or Senate involved and had a Senate inquiry. And in the Senate inquiry, you've probably seen it in movies, they subpoena you to come in. And it's like a royal commission here in Australia. You have to turn up. If you don't turn up, it's contempt.
Yep.
If you don't give it, it's contempt. And they can send you to jail. So in America, where you get subpoenaed to go, and some of them actually volunteered, like Dee Snider from Twisted Sister.
From Twisted Sister.
Yeah.
He was in court for, I don't know how many days he was in there.
And because he surprised everyone by being how articulate he was, and And
if you
Frank,
see the front cover of his albums, he doesn't.
he's a monster.
He's crazy.
Did you have you met him? Did you meet him or anything like that?
D. Snyder?
Yeah.
No.
He's 6'5". He's huge.
Yeah, I've never met him, but he's a tall man.
And they're all tall in Twisted Sister.
Yeah.
It's like, but all those guys, that must be the New York thing.
Yeah.
Because Kiss were all tall too. And there they are wearing their big costumes.
Yeah, with their 6 or 7 inch platforms. Twisted Sister didn't wear platforms, did they? Not like
No,
that,
they didn't wear platforms. They didn't have to.
They didn't have to. They were already that tall.
They were already pretty tall. Oh yeah, I remember seeing other footage of Twisted Sister, and I'm like, crap, these guys are tall.
But
so
he was very articulate, and it did surprise people. And the way he held himself in court was great for his band, for him, and musicians in general.
Yeah, and Frank Zappa turned up too, and
did he really?
Yeah, okay. Frank Zappa gave his presentation at the Senate inquiry and everything like that.
Yep.
And what happened was the sticker, the parental advisory.
Yep.
And do you think that probably, when people picked it up, it went parental advisory?
I'll buy this.
I'll buy this.
Because I used to do that same thing. If I didn't know what to buy one week, I had a mate of mine who'd go to Launceston in Tasmania for guitar lessons with me every week.
Yep.
And I didn't know what to buy, so I'd go, you pick something, I'll buy it. And if
it was
a choice, and the one had that sticker on it, we'll go that one.
Well, did something surprise you that you sort of bought that you knew nothing about and you listened to it and went, hey, this is pretty good?
Not back then. I can't really remember what he bought sometimes, but I listened to everything he bought. Well, I'd buy it. He'd pick it. And he used to play around with it and choose some pretty bad things on purpose, but I was going to buy it.
Do you remember in the record stores, I don't know if it happened in Tassie, but it happened here in Queensland, probably everywhere, they used to actually photocopy the covers of the heavy metal records because the kids were just nicking them for the covers.
Yeah.
And then you knew world was changing when the heavy metal ones were staying in, and it was all the hip-hop covers after that. They were all getting photocopied because the kids were nicking the hip-hop. That's when you knew the world was changing. Hip-hop had more to say to the kids than maybe some old rock and roll guys did.
That's true. But that was interesting times back then. The whole backward masking and all the satanic things are going on, and
because people thought that there was backmasking in Stairway to Heaven.
Yep,
that's a song. Like the people saying "My Sweet Satan" is in there, and if you play it backwards, you can kind of hear it a bit. But I think this all came from The Exorcist.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Yeah, because the Exorcist in the book, which preceded the film, have you seen The Exorcist?
Yeah.
There's a bit they record Regan and they think she's talking in a foreign language.
Yep.
And he said, no, she's not. She's talking backwards. And they played the tape and she's saying, I am no one. But they thought she was speaking in a foreign language. It's English. She's just backwards.
Yep.
And that was where the connection to Satanism came with the whole backward masking thing.
Yep.
And The Exorcist was a hugely popular film and book. The book was a bestseller, but the film was hugely popular. And I think it was it was one of the first real horror movies that came from a major studio. And it was just, not the first, but it was just a massively successul film.
The scene walking upside down, like on her hands and feet?
That was kind of in the later issues, but when she turns her head around. And, the whole thing was a battle of good and evil, and that was they were Catholic priests who came in and did that. They had that set up. And then you had The Omen came out a couple of years later. Mm-hmm. And that was another one that kind of planted those seeds in their head,
Footloose.
666. Footloose.
Classic Footloose.
Footloose.
You can't get much like that. Is based on religion, music. Don't dance. Don't do this. Don't do that.
Yeah.
And it was actually. Well, when was that out?
84.
84. There you go.
Elvis. Everyone thought Elvis was from the devil, didn't they?
Because the way he moved.
The way he moved, and this rock and roll was sinful stuff.
Mm.
Sinful stuff, and it'll certainly corrupt the youth. So they've always been worried about what's going to corrupt it, because the kids can't be trusted, Chris.
No.
The kids can't be trusted.
I think we turned out all right.
Yeah, we did. We turned out all right.
Apart from the DIO thing. Sorry. But yeah, no, it's
my head is in my hands.
It is. I can see that.
What don't you like about DIO?
No, I don't want to get into that now.
Oh, really?
Yeah. No, it's too long.
It's too long.
It's like you
What
with
did he-
Chili Peppers.
Yeah, but did he hurt you in some way? Did he say something about you, Chris?
No, he wouldn't. He's too small.
He was a tiny little man.
He was very small.
He was a tiny little, big voice. Tiny little man with a big voice. And one of my all-time favourite singers. Probably my all-time favourite singer.
Yeah, it's a good
Is
voice.
Ronnie Dio. Oh, is that all you got? Damning him with faint praise there, aren't you?
Yeah, I am.
He was an all right singer, I suppose.
He had a good voice to a point. But yeah, no, it's back to those days. It was interesting.
It was interesting, wasn't it?
I don't think we'll have it any more though, like that.
I don't think we would. You know, like everything has such a short shelf life now.
Mm.
You know, especially in popular culture. Like I mentioned, Lil Nas X, that controversy has blown over. You know, long ago.
Yeah.
On to the next thing now.
Yeah.
TikTok's a thing. You know, it's like you could be famous on TikTok for a day.
Yeah.
And then the next day, forgotten about.
Yeah.
You know?
And that's all started with things like Big Brother and Survivor. You're famous for a little while. You're on TV every day. Next minute you're gone. And some people survive it and some people don't.
Some people do. Yeah. Some people remain in the public favour, and some people keep trying to say, "No, please look at me.
Yeah.
I'm still popular. I'm still." You don't love it when people say their occupation is a reality TV star.
Yeah. Well,
I've met a few of them.
Look at Australian Idol and those kind of shows. X Factor. My father, when I was a kid, back in I was 5 or 6, he went on New Faces.
What did he do?
So back then, there was just a talent show.
Yeah. New Faces was a talent show. You just like
never
Australia's
expected
Got
to
Talent.
make anything out of it like they do now.
No, but
kids go there now and they expect a record contract and to be famous for the rest of their life. And
they do, don't they? Everyone, because the show's so popular.
Yeah.
What did your father do? I'm now
He sang.
curious. What did he sing?
He's a singer. Oh, I don't know what song he sang, but he's a classical singer.
Oh, wow.
Very deep voice.
Oh, that's where you get it from, isn't it?
Well, not my mother.
It's a good thing.
But yeah, no.
I hate to see that go, hello, Chris. Hello, Mum.
But yeah, no, he's a singer. So he's been a singer. I've only ever known him to sing for years and years and years. He's always done that.
Oh, has he?
Yeah.
How'd he go?
Well, I don't think he won it. But
What was this New Faces, on the mainland?
I think...
There wasn't a New Faces Tasmania, was there?
No, I don't remember if it was actually Launceston or he flew to Melbourne for it. I can't remember.
Well, it would have been Melbourne.
And I don't think it was Bert Newton's either. Because Bert Newton had a New Faces later on.
He did, yeah.
I don't think it was that. I think it was before that.
Yeah, someone else
It
would
would
have
have
done
been
it.
the 70s.
Wow.
I'm presuming.
Wow.
If I knew I was going to talk about it, I would have asked, but I don't know.
Oh, well, you just brought it up.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of this podcast.
Yeah. But that's the difference between... Because it's a game show back then. It's a game show now, but what you get out of it now is so much more than what you ever would have got back then.
We have digressed, and look, that was our thing on the Satanic Panic, and, I just wanted to talk about Satanism and everything like that, and to be honest, look, there's this documentary on, I think, Prime, called Hail Satan, about these people in America who want to make Satanism taught in schools because of freedom of religion and all that, and I thought, I'm going to watch this because I'm interested, and they were just a bunch of nerds, and I was just like, oh, guys. I think these guys are just doing it so they can get with chicks, to be honest.
Probably.
All right, guys, you do it. Yeah, okay.
That's funny.
Oh, yeah. But before we wrap, what was I talking about before we were just digressing about, you digressing about your dad? Oh, yeah. I was watching, was it The Voice the other night?
Mm-hmm.
I haven't watched it in a long time, and we just left it on, and I thought I'll watch this for a little bit. And I found it tedious, boring. The song choices that they were making these guys do was just awful and annoying. And I thought, I'm sick of hearing guys sing in high... But that's obviously a thing now, to hear guys sing in little high voices. Well, yeah. But what got me was... You only got the song, and this has been going forever, but you're only getting 90 seconds of the song.
Yeah.
The rest of it's a TV show.
Yeah.
I think people just tend to forget that, as you said, they go on these things thinking...
It's a game show.
Yeah, it's a game show. It's a TV show. It's up for TV ratings.
Yeah.
What you bring to it is yourself and whatever talent they can milk you for.
Yeah.
But if you think you're going to be... You're not the star of this show. Those 4 people in the chairs, those judges, they're the star of the show.
Mm-hmm.
And then the actual show is the star of the show, not you. So I've look, a lot of people have gone on these shows, and I do tend to feel a little sorry for them.
Yeah.
I do, because I think to myself, is this where it's gotten to, that the only way you think you can just get that little bit extra is to go on this show to get someone to hear you do your thing?
Yeah.
And I know in this time where you can't go out and play, but there's not a lot of venues for people to go and play.
That's only for the last 2 years anyway. Before that, you could play anywhere you liked.
Yeah, but getting noticed is the big thing.
That's what I remember. I can't remember what band it was. A guy in America was saying, who's a rock star in America, was saying it's funny how we used to play, every night we could in the middle of any town we could. We'll go anywhere we could, drive 2 or 3 hours to play a gig and do the hard yards. And now they go on to American Idol and expect to be signed, still delivered next day with a pop album out next day, and not do the work which they used to do back in the day, which is definitely something that happens. Kelly Clarkson won the first one over in America.
Oh, look at that!
And she still survived, and she's doing very well, and she was a great album, great singer, but she actually had, I think she had a court case with them and tried to get away from...
Yes, they all end up singing to...
Yeah, she got away from them as quick as possible, pretty much, and created her own songs.
Look at Guy Sebastian.
Yep.
Hasn't that guy had a hell of a career?
Yeah, he has.
He really has. I mean, that he has... I've got to take it off, but for every Guy Sebastian, and to a lesser extent Shannon Knoll, there's a whole bunch of others.
Yep.
Who won, and you think, well, what happened to them? Oh, Jess Mauboy has done very well, and I do believe that girl is a star.
Yeah, and it does find some good people.
It does,
absolutely. And the ones who are good would have made it probably anyway down the track, but they probably wouldn't have the launch pad they needed to get there as early as they did.
See, geography, I think, can play a big part on it too.
Yeah, true.
Like we talk in America, you've got Los Angeles and New York. If you really want to get into music, you've got to be in Los Angeles. Yep. That's why we've often talked about Slipknot being from Des Moines, Iowa.
Yeah.
It's like, what?
Yeah. How can that happen from there?
How did that happen from Des Moines, Iowa?
Yeah.
Well, that to me is boredom.
Yeah.
That's what started that band.
Yeah.
They're in Des Moines, Iowa. It's like, let's just create this craziest metal band you could ever create.
Yeah.
Jess Mauboy came from Darwin.
Yeah.
Darwin's not known for
anything.
For the music industry anyway.
No.
Everyone... Cyclones.
Yeah, that's it.
Crocodiles.
Yep. But and then you get Susan Boyle.
Susan Boyle is like another great example.
So it has worked for some.
One Direction.
Yeah, I was actually living in London when that all happened.
Oh,
watching it on TV, seeing them all come out, and that was pretty incredible.
Now you know that our show is now kind of gone. We started off talking about Satan, and we finished off with One Direction.
One Direction.
Isn't music a beautiful thing,
it is.
Chris?
The language of the world.
Let's wrap this whole thing up in a nice little bow. And I'll tell you what, we might start talk about the live music scene, what you said about playing everywhere, because there's some good stories, especially with Australia in the 80s, and they talk about the pub music scene. It's something else, and we'll obviously talk about that. So probably next episode, let's talk about some Aussie stuff, huh?
Yep, absolutely.
Let's do that.
Sounds great.
Let's do that. So for those of you who are asking for Aussie stuff,
you'll get it next week.
You'll get it next time, okay?
Next time, yeah.
Remember that. Write it down, Chris.
Aussie stuff.
Aussie stuff. Where's my pen?
Oh, can't use my phone either.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, well, see what we bring.
All right, no worries. Take care. See you later.
See ya.